Good morning, AGS crew, and welcome to this week's video. We're going to start with a lightning round of the Week 6 recaps, so let's get into it. First up, Jason beats Todd and moves to 5-7. Todd drops to a whopping 2-10 on the year and takes over the last place spot from Scott. Jason continues to struggle with injuries and also is fighting a few buys this week. Stafford and Chubb continue to disappoint, and Andrews carried his team this week. Todd got 37 points from Burrow, and the rest of his team was pretty mediocre. Todd continues to be the king of consistency, scoring almost exactly 120 points every single week, except for week 3 where he put up 177. Next up, I lost to Steve and the league median, falling to 8-4. Steve moves on to 10-2. He is number 1 in the standings and is ahead of second place by 2 games now. Almost guaranteed a playoff berth at this point, unless maybe I can jinx it. We'll see. My team struggled this week with quarterback injuries and buys. I'm hoping to rebound in week 7 with Tua coming back. Steve continues to dominate, although he had quite a few players in the single digits last week and was carried by Diggs, Matt Ryan, and Ayuk. Brad beats Nick in our closest matchup of the week, and also our highest scoring by far. Nick loses as the number 2 scorer and gets a taste of his own medicine after beating me in a similar fashion back in week 2. Both teams move on to 8-4. Brad continues to put together great performances every week and was able to score over 160 points despite just an okay week from Lamar Jackson, and Wilson and Higbee and Rodgers going for a combined 13. Nick also had a great week, led by Allen, McCaffrey, and Hill. McCaffrey's trade is interesting. He's probably going to have a rough week 7, but overall, higher potential on the 49ers than he had with Carolina. Matt hands Jeff a win, although he didn't really deserve it with only 122 points. Matt falls to 6-6 on the season and probably just wants to put this week behind him. He had only 2 players score more than 10 points this week and was lucky he didn't set a new record for fewest points scored, to be honest. Jeff moves to 5-7, starting to put things together a little bit more, but overall still struggling with a team that looks fantastic on paper every single week. He left 50 points on the bench this week and always has a lot of potential there. Scott beats Taro in his first matchup win of the season, and Scott also beat the league median this week and moves on to 3-9, finally rescuing him from last place. Taro drops back to 6-6. This was a good rebound from 85 points last week, but still not quite enough to get a win. Probably needs to continue searching for a better running back option, with McKissick taking a step back now that Robinson has recovered from his preseason gunshot injury. The rest of his lineup is looking pretty good, though. And last up, Dalton loses to Josh and drops to 3-9. Josh moves to 8-4, despite posting his second lowest score of the season. Just for perspective, Josh's second lowest score of the season, 145 points, was the 4th highest in the league this week. It's pretty crazy how well he's done and is only sitting at 8-4. Dalton has been on a bad trajectory after losing both of his starting quarterbacks. Dak Prescott and Mac Jones will finally come back this week, and hopefully that breathes some life back into Dalton's team. Josh has been pretty unstoppable lately with different players each week carrying his team. I think he'll struggle, though, with some of the bye weeks coming up, but obviously he continues to be a front runner right up there with Steve. Quick payout update. Our top scorer this week was Brad. 161 points is actually our lowest top scorer so far and proves that you don't need to put up 200 plus to make money. Scott still holds on to the Close But No Cigar prize, and top rookie is currently Breece Hall, with Dameon Pierce falling behind due to his bye week and Drake London falling a bit further behind with another mediocre week. The waiver wire wizard still sits with Cooper Rush, who will drop off this leaderboard after Dak returns this week if he can stay healthy. Suckup and Everett will likely be the 2 contenders for this prize moving into the second half of the season, given that Matt has stopped using Brissett, although it looks like he might have started him this week, so we'll see what happens. Week 6 standings. Josh finally takes the lead in the Anchorman division, a spot he definitely deserves. Taro continues to struggle. He likely isn't going to retake the lead from Josh, but could be a wildcard contender. Josh continues to lead the Ricky Bobby division, and like Josh, is a front runner for the playoffs, as well as that first round bye. Jason moves a little bit closer to 500 this week. He still leads the old school division with a losing record. Dalton and Scott are not far behind, though, and this division is completely up for grabs. Wedding Crashers continues to be very tight. Nick takes the lead via the tiebreaker because he scored 14 more points than me on the season, but anything could happen in this division as well. Brad and I, who are facing off in week 7, we hold the 2 wildcard spots for now, but with us going head-to-head this week, it opens up the door for another team to come in and steal that wildcard spot. The week 6 playoff picture continues to see a lot of movement. Jason moves up to a 2/3 chance at making the playoffs, and Dalton drops to just a 1-5 shot after losing both games in week 6. Nick improves to an 80% chance, and I fall back to an 80% chance after tying up our division this week. Matt, who's also in our division, becomes more of a long shot with under a 10% chance at making the playoffs. Steve and Josh are practically guaranteed a playoff spot at this point and have fantastic odds at winning the first round bye as well. Brad saw the biggest improvement of the week and now has a 93% chance of making the playoffs, despite currently sitting in 5th place. He's in the same division as Steve, so there's low odds that he'll actually win that division, but great odds that he'll take one of the wildcard spots. And then down at the bottom of the standings, Scott now has only a 29% chance of 12th place, improving from 58% last week. Scott, Dalton, and Todd all basically have a 1/3 chance at last place right now. But there's still half the season to go, so plenty of time to fight your way out of that, guys. So after 6 weeks, I'm 4 games behind Sleeper's predictions. I took 1 game on them last week, and let's see how I can do in week 7. Mike versus Brad, the 2 wildcard teams going head-to-head. I have Cousins, Singletary, Cup, and the Bills defense all on buys this week. Tua comes back this week, though, against an easy Pittsburgh team. Brad already with great weeks from Kamara and Eno Benjamin, and he'll see big points from Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, and Pittman, all with favorable matchups this week. This one's going to go to Brad, though. I'm going to struggle to hit even 130. Matt versus Steve. Steve with his top receiver Diggs on a bye this week. I think he'll also be disappointed by Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. Matt puts in Brissett back into his lineup. He'll have a great week from Jonathan Taylor and Mahomes. This one is going to be very high scoring. Matt needs redemption after a couple rough weeks, and I think he gets it here. He's going to show us that Steve can bleed. Jeff versus Nick. Nick has his lifeblood, Josh Allen, plus a few others on a bye this week. Tyreek Hill and McCaffrey, though, are going to be projections. Nick's team probably going to top off around 140 points this week. Jeff looks great on paper, as usual. He's projected at 169. He is going to be let down once again, though. I see tough matchups across the board, like Trevor Lawrence against the Giants, and even Lazard and Aaron Jones playing in Washington. I think Green Bay is going to lose that game. But is Jeff's team going to be bad enough that Nick could pull through? I think so. I'm going to give this one to Nick, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring, close matchup. Jason versus Josh, hands down, this one's going to go to Josh. Aside from Andrews, Jason's best players are all on a bye, and the rest of his team has struggled to meet projections all season. I think Jason doesn't even hit 100 points this week. Juggernaut Josh, on the other hand, is going to pull through with great weeks from Barkley, Judy, and maybe Kittle finally. Taro versus Dalton. Taro continues his put in a kicker at the last moment strategy, keeping his projections falsely low. Waddle is going to struggle this week with his shoulder injury, and I think Green Bay defense puts up negative points and loses to the Commanders this week. Taro's going to come in well under projections. Dalton, this is a must-win for you. And finally, you're getting Dak Prescott and Mac Jones back this week. I think Dalton's going to pull through and get a win. Last up, Todd versus Scott. They're going to duke it out for last place. Todd's team continues to struggle. I expect he'll walk away with 120 points again this week, if he's lucky. Mike Evans and Brady are going to bounce back for Scott, though, after they had a terrible week 6. Maybe Brady was hungover or something from the wedding. We'll never know. I'm going to give this one to Scott. So that's it for the video this week. Thanks for watching, and I hope everybody enjoys their Sunday.